At its peak, Enron was praised as America's most innovative company, but behind the hype was a corporate casino booking billions in fake profits, cashing in on lottery tickets that would never pay out. This was not a standard Wall Street flop. It was $63 billion, a glitch in the matrix that destroyed thousands of lives and rewrote the rulebook for fraud. But how did a boring gas company convince the world to buy into pure financial fiction? And could the same blueprint be running today's biggest scams? Let's break it all down. Enron's golden ticket wasn't oil, gas, or even trading desks. It was a piece of accounting sorcery called mark-to-market accounting. Picture this. You buy a lottery ticket, tell your friends you will definitely win $1 million 10 years from now, and then use that imaginary prize to buy a Lambo today. That was Enron's business model, rubber-stamped by the Securities and Exchange Commission in 1992. Here is how the time machine worked. Whenever Enron signed a long-term contract, for example, a 10-year deal to deliver natural gas, they would run the numbers, guess what the market might look like in the future, and then book all those future profits as cold, hard cash on day one. It did not matter if the money would not show up for a decade or if it never came at all. On the balance sheet, it was already in the bank. Instant profit, instant stock price boost, instant CEO bonus. The vibes were immaculate, at least on paper. The Securities and Exchange Commission's approval arrived as a low-key no-action letter from the Division of Corporation Finance, letting Enron treat these contracts like Wall Street options instead of boring utility deals. The only catch was that Enron had to promise their estimates were reasonable. But nobody checked the math. Executives could plug in whatever numbers kept the party going. If the forecast looked weak, tweak the spreadsheet, bump up the price of gas, lower the discount rate, and bam, another quarter of record profits. This was not a one-off trick. Mark-to-market became Enron's main hustle. Energy traders, broadband dreamers, even the weather desk, everyone played the same game. Sign a contract, make wild guesses about the future, and turn those guesses into today's revenue. If a deal flopped or the tech never worked, looking at you Blockbuster Video on Demand, Enron did not have to admit it for years. They could keep the illusion alive, quarter after quarter, as long as they kept finding new contracts to juice the numbers. On Wall Street, analysts ate it up. Enron's revenue chart looked like a crypto moonshot. Straight up, no dips. But under the hood, it was pure gaslighting. The profits were just IOUs from the future, and the future was not paying up. Eventually, the gap between the spreadsheet fantasy and the real cash flow would get too wide to hide. For most of the 1990s, though, nobody wanted to fail the vibe check. As long as the stock price soared, nobody asked where the money was actually coming from. Inside Enron's Houston skyscraper, survival meant playing a corporate version of Squid Game, except the only rule was, don't get caught holding the bag. Every year, 15% of the workforce got the axe, no matter how well the company performed. The system was called rank and yank. Managers stacked employees against each other, then lopped off the bottom rung like dead weight. It did not matter if you were a spreadsheet wizard or a deal-making prodigy. If your number came up, you were out. This was Skilling's meritocracy, but in practice it bred chaos. People hoarded information, sabotaged rivals, and gamed the numbers just to dodge the pink slip. Forget teamwork. Trust was for suckers. If your department's numbers dipped, you could kiss your badge goodbye, so every quarter turned into a desperate scramble to look good on paper. Miss a target? Bury the loss, fudge the projection, or pass the hot potato to someone else. The grift was not just at the top. It was baked into the culture. One spreadsheet at a time. The pressure was not subtle. Employees kept go bags in their desks, never knowing when HR would drop the hammer. Whispers about who would be next to get yanked traveled faster than any official memo. New hires arrived wide-eyed and left either shell-shocked or ready to play dirtier. The message was clear. If you did not deliver impossible results, you were expendable. If you did, you might get a fat bonus, or just a stay of execution until the next round. As the stakes rose, so did the desperation. Some teams hid losses in creative accounting footnotes. Others cooked up one-time gains by selling assets back and forth between Enron subsidiaries, inflating results just long enough to dodge the year-end cull. If you got caught, you were the scapegoat. If you succeeded, you were a hero, at least until the next review cycle. This was not just toxic, it was radioactive. The constant threat of firing turned Enron into a Hunger Games arena, where only the most ruthless or lucky survived. It is no wonder nobody wanted to be the one to admit a bad deal, or to call out the emperor's new clothes. When your job is on the line every single year, the truth is just another liability. In this system, the only thing more dangerous than lying was telling the truth. Andy Fastow strutted into Enron's C-suite with a playbook that would make even the sketchiest DeFi rug pullers blush. His weapon of choice was special purpose entities, the legal shells that let a company pretend debt and losses did not exist. Think of it like this. You have a beat-up clunker in your garage, and you want everyone to believe you just made bank selling it. So you sell the car to your dog, you hand your dog your own credit card to pay for it, and then you brag to the neighbors about your big payday. That is the grift at the heart of Fastow's scheme, but scaled up to billions of dollars and an army of shell companies. The first big hustle was Chuco, a shell that was supposed to be independent, but was really just Fastow and his buddies with a couple of bank loans propped up by Enron guarantees. Chuco let Enron hide ugly debt off the books, keeping the balance sheet squeaky clean for Wall Street. But that was only the appetizer. Fastow's main course was LJM1 and LJM2, partnerships where he literally played both sides of the table. As Enron's chief financial officer, he sold underperforming assets to his own shells at inflated prices, then booked the difference as instant profit. The board signed off even after some risk managers tried waving red flags. For his trouble, Fastow pocketed $45 million personally, all while pretending to be the adult in the room. Then came the Raptors, a flock of special-purpose entities designed to hedge Enron's risk. The Raptors were funded with Enron stock, which meant the hedges only worked as long as Enron shares kept mooning. If the stock dipped, the whole scheme would collapse like a Jenga tower in an earthquake. On paper, the Raptors swallowed bad deals and losses, letting Enron keep reporting record profits, while the real debt stayed hidden and the vibes stayed immaculate. Fastow's shell game did more than gaslight investors. It built a house of cards so fragile that a small drop in the stock price threatened to expose everything. When the grift ran out of road, Enron's balance sheet would flip from innovative to insolvent in a heartbeat. But as long as the party lasted, Fastow and his crew made sure the only thing that was real was their payday. Bethany McLean didn't buy the hype. In early 2001, while most of Wall Street chanted Enron's name like it was a tech messiah, she was the Fortune reporter who asked the one question that could kill the vibe. How does Enron actually make money? Her article, Is Enron Overpriced?, dropped in March 2001 and landed like a meme gone viral. The company's stock was riding high, but now the group chat was full of side eyes. Suddenly, analysts and investors wanted receipts, not just vibes and buzzwords. Inside Enron, that question hit like a brick through a glass tower. Executives scrambled to explain away the smoke and mirrors. Sharon Watkins, a vice president with a conscience, fired off an internal memo to Ken Lay, warning that Enron could implode in a wave of accounting scandals. She called out the shell games and the accounting hoax. Instead of getting a medal, Watkins got sidelined, because in Enron's world, Telling the truth was the ultimate party foul. The pressure kept building. On April 17, 2001, during a live earnings call packed with investors and reporters, Chief Executive Officer Jeff Skilling finally cracked. When an analyst pressed him for details on Enron's mysterious balance sheet, Skilling fired back, "Thank you very much, asshole." The line was so raw it instantly tanked the mood and the stock price. Wall Street wasn't laughing. For the first time, the smartest guys in the room looked like they were sweating bullets. From that moment, the grift started to unravel in public. Analysts who once fawned over Enron's innovation now circled like sharks, picking apart every press release and footnote. The Securities and Exchange Commission dialed up the heat, and even the most loyal employees started asking if the emperor's new clothes were just a spreadsheet filter. The corporate gaslighting had failed its vibe check. Behind the scenes, executives moved from denial to panic, prepping for a storm they could no longer control. The days of instant profits and untouchable confidence were over. Now, every phone call and memo felt like it could be the match that would set the whole thing on fire. Courtroom doors slammed shut on Enron's leaders, but the fallout did not stop at guilty verdicts. The company's top brass traded their penthouses for prison jumpsuits. Jeffrey Skilling was handed a 24-year sentence for fraud and conspiracy, one of the longest ever for a corporate crime boss. Andrew Fastow, the architect of Enron's shell game, took a plea deal and served 6 years. Kenneth Lay, who had spent years gaslighting employees about the company's future, died of a heart attack before he could be sentenced. Arthur Anderson, the accounting giant that turned a blind eye and fed the shredder, did not survive either. 85,000 employees worldwide lost their jobs when the firm dissolved in disgrace. But some wounds cut deeper than any jail time. Cliff Baxter, Enron's former vice chairman, was found dead in his Mercedes on a cold January morning in 2002. His suicide note left on the passenger seat read like a confession from a man crushed by shame. He wrote, "I am beneath the disgrace," and pleaded for his family to forgive him. Baxter had been subpoenaed by Congress, grilled by investigators, and hounded by headlines. He had told friends he felt betrayed by the very people he once called partners. The pressure, the public humiliation, and the endless parade of subpoenas finally broke him. Enron's collapse did not just vaporize $63 billion in shareholder value or wipe out $2 billion in employee pensions. It left a trail of ruined lives, broken families, and a generation of workers who watched their savings vanish overnight. The scandal forced Congress to pass the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, tightening corporate accountability and making it a felony to destroy evidence. But the law could not undo the damage. For every executive behind bars, there were thousands left jobless, and at least one who decided he could not live with the disgrace. The justice system did its victory lap, but for many, the story ended with nothing but regrets and cardboard boxes. The Enron playbook did not get buried with the company ruins. It is still out here, shape-shifting in the wild. Ask John Ray III, the lawyer who cleaned up Enron's mess and then got handed the keys to FTX in 2022. His first impression was worse than Enron. Ray said FTX's books were such a dumpster fire that even Enron's balance sheets looked like a model of transparency. FTX ran the same grift, just with more code and fewer spreadsheets. They booked made-up profits on illiquid crypto tokens, valuing their own FTT coin at billions of dollars, even though the only people buying were themselves and their friends. Alameda Research, FTX's so-called trading partner, borrowed billions off the books, using customer deposits as personal casino chips. When the vibes went south, the hole was $8 billion deep. Ray found loans, fake assets, and shell companies stacked like Russian dolls. It was Enron 2.0, but with Discord mods instead of Houston MBAS. And it is not just crypto. Private equity giants, Blackstone, Apollo, the whole crew, are still running the Enron script with their fair value marks. They buy up companies, slap a sky-high price tag on them for the quarterly report, and pretend those numbers are real. Nobody is buying, nobody is selling, but the portfolio keeps mooning. That is mark-to-market Wall Street edition. When the market tanks, the markdowns come late, if they come at all. Zombie companies shuffle around in spreadsheets, hiding losses until the next crash. The same gaslighting that nuked Enron's 401k plans is alive and well. The only thing that has changed is the buzzwords. Now it is digital assets and alternative investments instead of innovative energy trading. The grift survived, leveled up, and went global. If you think the next collapse cannot happen, just remember, the playbook never left. It just got new players and a fresh coat of hype. Right now, billions sit in private equity and crypto empires, valued by the same mark-to-market vibes that vaporized Enron. John Ray III, who cleaned up Enron, calls FTX worse. The tools have not changed, just the logos. Every time we ignore the math behind the hype, another pension gets YOLO'd into oblivion. The real question is, who is tallying the next illusion? Drop your take in the comments.